Hi beautiful ones, it's Ethany and welcome to Oracle Wednesday for the 4th of September through to the 11th. You are about to see 3 piles of cards on my altar table and you're going to select the pile that you feel the most drawn to. Then you're going to come on back and listen to the messages revealed. This is general guidance for the week. It might be a little bit of inspiration. It may be the thing that you've been waiting to hear. I just hope that there's something in this for you when you pick your card. So this is for the week including, so today, all the way through to next time you pick your card with me. Hopefully. Why wouldn't you? It's always fun to pick a card. So let's go on over, swap over those cameras and have a look at what is on offer for you this week for Oracle Wednesday. Okay, so now it's time for you to take a deep breath and ground yourself, center yourself, and ask, what do I need to know for the coming week? What message am I being asked to listen to, or what guidance can I take forward for the coming week? And select your pile of cards. This is group number 1, group number 2, and group number 3. Or pile number 1, pile number 2, and pile number 3. I suggest you write that down somewhere so you don't forget, and then you can carry on and watch your messages revealed. Okay. Pile number 1 or group number 1, remembering I do use those interchangeably throughout the video, so don't get too confused if I do swap those up. So number 1, your first card is the 9 of Wands. And you have a major theme this week of really being aware of what you are choosing to engage in. What is actually worth enduring for yourself at this point? You have gone so far in this marathon called life, and it could be a relationship that you're in, it could be the work that you're doing, it could be, some projects that have gone unfinished that you're like, no, I can finish them. Basically what the 9 of Wands is calling out to you, saying is this the best use of my time and energy? You literally cannot get your time back. And to quote Marvel, because it's a great quote, no amount of money could buy a moment of time. And it's absolutely true. So while you think, sure, I can be the one who's going to paint the room, or I'm going to be the one to finish doing this project, you may be better off paying somebody else to do that. A, you're helping somebody else's business or you're helping somebody else's company, and B, you're freeing your time up. If it's a work thing that you're finding the endurance feeling, that feeling of like, oh gosh, like I'm having to here we go again kind of thing, I'm a bit battered and bruised, I'm not feeling the joy anymore. Really looking at what your options are outside of that, either to make sure the rest of your life is going really well, if it's something you can't, get out of and move away from, or actually starting to look at something else. Because what can happen is you can start to feel very insular and you can start to feel as though there's nothing really else out there, when in fact there often is. So if it's a relationship, you're really being asked to look at where the energy imbalance may be, or if you're being triggered because some expectation is not being met and you feel as though you're the one who's putting in all the work. Basically, this is a big call from spirit, from your inner self, from your guides, from your ancestors, your gods and goddesses, your fae, whoever you call upon, to have a look at what you're investing in and what your investments are doing in regards to your time, energy, love, all that kind of stuff. Your second card is the Lovers, and this is now not basically saying that all your relationships are a mess and you need to ditch them all because they're all too hard. It's basically the remembrance of choice. So the Lovers card is the Gemini in astrology, in the zodiac, and it is of duality and of decisions. So you can choose to heal that situation that you've been feeling as though has been causing you a bit of angst, and you feel like you've been having to endure things and it's been a bit, it's been hard. Like that, the 9 of Wands is a card of the battle, you've been right ring through it, basically. So whether you want to now make the choice to continue or the choice to find something new and opt out, also the choice of just how much you're going to be giving certain situations. So as I mentioned before, not everything can be sort of just burnt to the ground or just simply walked away from, or that is a luxury of sometimes of privilege, and a luxury sometimes of money and timing and situations. Like, things that tend to be a little bit more complicated. Very few people, that was one of the things I was like really about, like that Eat, Pray, Love, which I know happened, but I was like, damn, that was like some privilege for her to be able to go, bugger it, I'm gonna go quit my job and travel the world and do all these things. It's like most people just can't up and eat, pray, love. We just can't. I mean, we just can't. There's bills to pay and people to take care of and time invested in things that need to be worked out. And so it's not about ditching and going and eat, praying, loving, although unless that's what you want to do, and, you know, may the gods be with you. This is more about the choices that you make inside a day to either put some boundaries in place so that everything is not chipping away at you all the time, or even just choosing a different method of dealing with things, or even making those choices to look at your other options, like, say, for example, the work one, while you're still in the work situation that you're at, consulting other people, like if it was something that needed to be finished, or even getting some outside help. So there's a lot you can do with choices. And the thing about choice is about having options. And sometimes with that Nine of Wands, you know, it can feel as though we don't have any options. It can feel as though there is a real roadblock, a real, basically a shit time. And I'm not saying it's not. I'm not invalidating the fact that sometimes there are some crappy things going on. It's more just that it's like, okay, now how can I choose to operate inside of this, and what boundaries need to be put into place? And then your third card, group number 3. Oops, one. I'm getting all excited. I got confused because the third card in group 1 is sovereignty. So this is, in this card is the 3 maiden goddesses from the Greek pantheon. And these 3 maiden goddesses were not necessarily maidens because they were not intimate with other people. It's that they were maidens because they retained their sovereignty. They needed no god to make them whole. They needed no other part of anything to make them whole. They had strong myths on their own. And, you know, even in Athena's case, she was feared by many gods, hence the reason why she's my matron. One of the many, many reasons why she's my matron goddess. So this is a reminder to reclaim what you can. It may just be something small. It may just be half an hour of your time. You know, maybe you were spending an hour listening to a friend bitch and moan, whereas you're like, instead of allowing that person to natter on the phone because they always call you, you can literally say when you answer the phone, hey, Tiffany, I've got 20 minutes. That's all I've got. And then I absolutely non-negotiable have to go. Don't need to say why. Don't need to say where or when. Just I have to go. And then you'd be like, oh, 20 minutes is up. And then, you know, like not obviously hang up on them. I mean, you could. You might not have Tiffany as a friend for much longer. But if Tiffany's just calling you to complain, maybe you don't want Tiffany as a friend in the first place. But that's a completely different conversation. But I'm just saying, like, you would have reclaimed some of that time. That's what you're looking at, reclaiming small amounts of your power back, reclaiming small amounts of yourself back, and then looking at those 9 of Wands, all those things that you have, in fact, endured, and all those experiences and lessons that you have learned through those choices and through being in the situation that you're in, as to making smarter choices on behalf of your own power and ensuring that you're doing something for yourself. So that is group number 1. Okay, group number 2. As always, I have a million cards in front of me, so I'm just making sure I don't mess them all up. Your first card today, group number 2, pile number 2, is the 7 of Cups. And she is literally surrounded by these 7 cups full of 7 options. And there are a couple of messages for you, group number 2, this week. The first one is to really look at what is fantasy and what is reality. Maybe someone has been spinning you a yarn. Maybe someone has been saying, oh, next time I promise, or it won't be the same way moving forward, or things are going to be different, or you've gone in for your third time you've gone in to ask for a raise at your business, your job, and they've said next time. Right. So if there is a pattern that is unfolding in your life that is been basically someone spinning a yarn at you and throwing a glamour and putting a mask out there saying one thing is going to happen and then obviously something else is happening every single time, you are stuck in the Seven of Cups realm. But guess what, honey bear? You have stuck yourself there. There is no one else that you can blame for the fact that you keep on going back for the shit Sunday surprise that is this person's bullshit. So basically there are all these options, all these words being said to you, all these pretty promises, all of these, next times and fantasies, and wouldn't it be great if we did this, and we're going to do this, and the next time we get the next time there's an opening in this position, it's going to be yours. Right. Well, your next card is basically calling bullshit. And of course, it is the Queen of Swords. Cut through the crap and the distractions. Pay attention to what is going on and not just the words. Not just the words. I love how this card has literally got the scissors, and it's just like, cut the crap, cut it. It's not doing you any good to believe things that are not coming to fruition. And I'm not saying don't work hard for a promotion. I'm not saying don't work at a relationship. I'm not saying don't put in your dues and do the work. I'm saying be aware when cycles happen and they keep happening that something is not kind of right here. It's just not. That Seven of Cups is often that fantasy card of like looking at all the choices. Obviously, there's a lot more to that card. Every card has got many facets. But this week, it was all about that illusions being thrown in your head, being in the clouds, and your rose-colored glasses, and all that kind of jazz. So I like how this card also has a brutal truth on it. Let's see if I can get that to brutal truth. The Queen of Swords can be brutal, but you know what? Sometimes it is necessary. Sometimes we believe our shit. We believe the lies too much, or we want to. We have this real want to just pray. We're just hoping and we really want things to work out the way that we really deeply desire in our hearts, but oftentimes we need to cut the bullshit and get rid of the distractions, which those illusions are, and get to the heart of it. And then finally, your third card for group number 2 is release. So often when it comes to when we have glamours being thrown at us, or we're in the midst of this really wanting to believe in somebody's potential, or a relationship's potential, or a workplace's potential, or whatever it may be, we fear if we stand up for ourselves and we let the things go that are not actually helping us in any way, shape, or form, that we're going to be left with this big gaping hole and nothing is going to be able to take its place. So if it's a relationship, we're worried there's going to be nobody there for us. We're going to be alone. Mind you, some of us, like me, love being on their own. We worry about there not being other opportunities. And I will never say, this is the HR professional coming out of me, I would never say to ditch your job until you have a new one, unless it is a toxic, dangerous environment, because you are much more employable when you're working. Just a little tip there. Or we worry when we let something go that is no longer serving us any joy, that we're going to be left feeling joyless, where that is completely the opposite of what can happen. You're allowing space for something better to come along. The release card in my Awakened Soul Oracle has this bird that has been nursed back to health, and now it's time to let that bird go and to release that bird back into the wild, even though there was a lot of time and energy put into nursing that bird back to health. It now needs to go where it belongs, which is in nature. So second group, time to cut the bullshit. Stop lying to yourself. Stop believing the things that are distracting you, and there are more things out there for you. It can be a little bit scary, but just seeing where my puppy is. I don't know where he's gone. That could be dangerous. I might get off this and find that he's chewed a shoe. Although he's been pretty good. Sorry, that it's time for you to create a little bit of space for yourself. Pile number 3, group number 3, our final group for today's reading. It's really interesting when I was picking these cards out, how high all of the arcana. Oh no, he's under the couch. He thinks he's a cat. Just FYI, before I get into channeling your messages, he thinks he's a cat. He likes to hide under the couch. Like he literally army crawls under there and stays under there. He thinks it's fabulous. It's quite funny. So when I was doing the readings today and prepping it and making some notes, it was really interesting to see how high up in numbers all of these all of the minor arcana were. And it just really feels very apt, right? We're about to go into a new season. We're about to hit our, the fall in the northern hemisphere, and we're going to be going into spring in the southern hemisphere. So those extremes, or the heat that we've been feeling in the northern hemisphere and the cold, is about to be tempered a little bit more. So it makes sense that we've got these kind of higher arcana cards, because we're nearly there. We're charging through, and seasonal lessons item, especially for a witch like me, it makes total sense that like these higher cards were coming up. So our first card is the 9 of Swords. So if you picked this pile for this week, you are being really called to tend. Are you going to focus on this or not, you silly camera? You're being asked to focus on your mental landscape, on your mental health, on all those things that are really important. It can be a prison to live in a mental space that is not the most optimal and the most healthy. It can be very, very difficult. So, and I am speaking from experience. I've had postpartum depression after my son. I had pretty bad postpartum depression. I didn't realize it at the time. So bad that I flew back home to Australia for, it was like 6 weeks, I think it's 5 or 6 weeks, to try and get some connection with my family. And I literally had to get on a plane and go home. My dad was like, come home, because it was that bad. I've had depressive episodes before as well. So it's not like I'm saying this to be like, everything is great and fine and dandy here and I've never had a problem. It's like, I have had a problem. I've been on medication before. So there's nothing for me, and there's nothing taboo about being a spiritual person and seeking Western medicine and seeking support and knowing where your limits are and wanting to live an optimal life and wanting to live a life where it's not a battlefield of the mind all the time. And this doesn't always have to be that intense, but usually the 9 of Swords is not a fun place to be. So either you are stuck in a stressful situation, or you really need to take care of your mental health. And if you need help, I'm going to write a little note to put a support info for mental health. I'm doing that right now, because this is as live as it's going to get. Call somebody, reach out, because that's the other thing about depression and anxiety and all of those things that make us feel like we're drowning, or that we get smaller, like the spiral winds in, it's really isolating. So please reach out to people. And that really leads me to my second card here for this week, and it is the Ace of Cups. And it's like letting these things out, these bottled up emotions. And maybe you've been bottling up your feelings and your fears and your emotions because you have to take care of other people. You're a mom, or you're a carer, or you're a father, you're a brother, you're a sister. You are responsible for other people, and you think, I have to keep my shit together, because if I don't, the whole ship is going to fall apart. Or, don't spill your tea and your truth and your need to necessarily express on the ship. Get off the ship, go have a coffee with a friend, speak to a free health line, find some support in a group. So that's what the second one is about. Let the feelings flow. The Ace of Cups, it's saying let it out in a safe space. All that stuff you've been bottling up, even if it's just like you're not happy with a certain thing and you just need to vent. Some of us need to vent. I'm a venter. I need to speak things. I can rarely let things go without at least expressing it somewhere, whether it's journaling, which is why I've got journals through my whole life, or calling my sisters, or, you know, calling my parents, or whoever it is, you know, I'm like, and I'll literally say, I need to vent. I don't need anything but just to vent. Are you in a space where you can do that for me? And then I give that person the opportunity to say no or yes. So those are the two, your first two cards. It's taking care of that mental landscape and then letting the feelings flow in a place, in a space that is healthy for you and everybody else, so you don't kind of go off like a minefield. And I'm not saying that if that happens you're the worst person. You're not. We've all had those times where things have seeped out of us in an unsexy, unpleasant, unfun, unconstructive way, because we're human. We're here to experience, and we're not perfect. I certainly know I'm not. So your last card is change, and the message here is to look at doing things a little bit differently, even if it's just one small, tiny thing. My challenge, for example, for this week is to get on my bike. I have a stationary bike, is to get on my bike for 20 minutes a day. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, and my activity has gone up a lot since having my puppy. I want to get back on my bike, and that's a small thing. But it feels like a big thing to me. It's not like I'm lazy, so I have so much in my life already. So, but that's my challenge. It's like, okay, well, if you're going to watch TV or you're going to be answering things on Instagram, you're going to be on your damn bike while you do it. So it's just a small thing. And again, it could be just picking up that phone and letting someone know that you need some help. It could be, you know, walking to work through a garden versus, you know, walking in concrete just to get some nature in your day. It could be dropping an energy drink in the morning because you know that that's probably not the best thing for you to be putting into your body straight away. It could be starting to journal, you know, and if you're like, oh, I don't like to physically handwrite, start a Google document and journal in there. There is really no excuse. Start a vlog if you want to just talk it out. Find a support group. You know, there's plenty of meetup groups, there's Facebook groups, there is support out there. And yes, it can be hard and scary, but take someone along to come with you. But do something just a little bit differently to try and change the cycle and to expect different results. So those are your messages for group 1, 2, and 3. I hope it has resonated. I'm going to now share with you the decks that I've used this week. If you've been following me for a while, you would have recognized at least 2 of them that I have created myself. And then the third is a deck that I got from when I went to Northwest Tarot Symposium this year, and I got it from Jennifer. I bought it off of her. So the first deck is my Bad Bitches Tarot. This is the first edition. As many of you know, I mean, I just put up a video, was it yesterday, about how we're in production for the second edition. This camera does wash out the colors quite a lot just because of the contrast here, but like that's like quite blue, the background, and that, you know, that background is quite peach. So it's just more the camera. So this is in production. They are being printed as we speak. Hallelujah. There are changes. It's coming. Bear with me. I'm working on it as quickly as I can. That's my Bad Bitches Tarot, which is a all feminine, all female deck of empowerment and sass, which is pretty much, you know, my life. Well, I hope that's what I'm here to be helping people with. My second deck is the Awakened Soul Oracle. The second edition is underway. Danielle, who's my artist, fellow Australian, and just a beautiful soul, is working on the changes to the cards because we're changing a few of the cards, which is very exciting. And then there is a wait list to get on the wait list for the second edition, and the second edition is going to have smaller cards because these were massive and they were extremely heavy and very expensive to ship. So we're going to be, well, I've decided I'm making them smaller. So that's the Awakened Soul Oracle, and it's where my bee comes from. My lovely bee is from that talented Danny. And then the final deck is the Practical Magic deck, And I bought this actually off of one of my friends, Jennifer, who had a spare copy, and it's written and designed by Chingay Labrador. And this is the first time I've ever used this deck. And I mean, when I saw it, when Jennifer and I were at dinner, I had to have it. I don't love all of the collage decks, but I do love this a lot. It's just very sweet. And I don't actually mind the keywords on here. So the Page of Pentacles, the responsible observer, because that's, that makes a lot of sense. And again, this is like the color, and this is getting washed out a little bit. Oh, so pretty. So I have not done a walkthrough or anything on this deck because it was a deck that I purchased at Northwest Tarot Symposium, and it's just been in my collection. And I've been trying to like swap it up now that I'm using Student Page of Swords, using different decks and using more than one deck in Oracle Wednesday now, so that you're seeing more. So great. Dua, the King of Wands. It's a true story. I've been trying to, do more, share more. Earth Mama, Queen of Pentacles. That's what she is for me too. So now that I'm doing that, now that I'm using, I was getting distracted by the pretty cards. Now that I'm using more than one deck in Oracle Wednesday, it just makes sense to be using as many of my big collection that I can. I will put in the description below all of the decks that I have used this week, where you can find them. And I will also put the link of where you can go if you do find that you are needing some assistance with that mental garden, your space, your just some support there as well. If you enjoyed this, please share it with your friends. That's all I ask, is a little bit of a love share. And I hope you all have a beautiful week, and I will see you next time.